Hey, this is Rachel Cravenger, and this is my final project for my MDM4U course. The purpose of this project was to determine the relationship between the countries in the same continent based on their social development. The United Nations collects data every few years from all of its members, with the exceptions of the DPR Korea, Monaco, Nauru, and Somalia, and the addition of the State of Palestine and Hong Kong SAR. Such data covers things like expected years of schooling, life expectancy, and so on. Altogether, this data is used to create one data point describing the social development of the country. This is called the Human Development Index, or HDI score. Going into this study, I thought that there would be a strong relationship between the countries and their continent because societies are shaped by their surroundings. Therefore, it is logical to conclude that the closer the countries are to one another, the more similar they will be. Since this project was done using a secondary source, the planning process wasn't exhaustive. All the raw data was found in one location, that location being the Human Development Reports, Human Development Index, and its components from 2021 to 2022. The United Nations conducted all the measurements for this project. I'm unaware by what means they went about this, but I'm confident it is a reliable source because they are an international government organization. The raw data was organized into stratas, and then the stratified random sampling method was used to determine the samples. Using sampling was the best decision because there was an overwhelming and uneven amount of raw data. It is important that stratified random sampling occurred to ensure that each group was equally represented. Otherwise, household bias would have occurred. The countries were chosen by an online random selection program. Based on the data described in the analysis section, we can conclude that there is a strong correlation between a country's HDI score and the continent that it belongs to. In other words, countries in the same continent more or less have similar scores on the Human Development Index. This conclusion aligns with what was hypothesized at the beginning of the study. Such strong correlation is displayed in North America because half of the data falls between a range of 0.123, and also in South America and Oceania because none of the countries fall within the low HDI score bin. And it is also displayed in the Europe data since the countries' HDI scores have a smaller spread, and therefore all the data points are very close together. The countries in Asia and Africa have a weaker relationship with their continent compared to the other continents, although the relationship is still clearly visible. We know this because each bin size is represented in the pie charts, the bin sizes being low, average, high, and very high HDI scores. If further studies were to be conducted, it would be interesting to focus on more isolated geographical regions. For example, the relationship between the country's score and the subcontinent it belongs to. This might prove to yield more positive results, especially concerning continents like Europe. Despite attempts to avoid bias, it is inevitable that some will occur. Non-response bias played a role in this study because a sampling was used. The sample stratas excluded the other data displayed in the population. A clear example of this is with North America. Approximately 45% of the population had an HDI score over 0.676, while only 2 of the 7 samples represented that range. Overall, the project and all the components that went into it, such as data collection, organization, analysis, and the production of information, proved that the continents and their countries are not foreign concepts to one another. Rather, the relationship goes deeper than just sharing borders.